We have been sold a lie about how great work happens. We're told to wait for the spark, that sudden, electric burst of inspiration that makes hitting the gym at 5 a.m. or finishing a grueling project feel effortless. We treat motivation like a magical visitor we hope will show up, but Stoicism teaches us a harsher, more liberating truth. Motivation is a fair-weather friend. It is fickle, unreliable, and prone to vanishing the moment things get difficult. If you only move when you feel like it, you aren't actually the captain of your ship. You are a passenger to your own biochemistry. When you let your emotions dictate your output, your moods are in control, and your potential is held hostage by how well you slept or what you ate for breakfast. This is the path of the amateur. The Stoics, from the Emperor Marcus Aurelius to the slave-turned-teacher Epictetus, understood that human nature naturally gravitates toward comfort and avoidance. They didn't wait for the spark. Instead, they built a furnace. Today, we are moving past the fragile philosophy of feeling like it and stepping into a 2,000-year-old operating system. This isn't about fleeting enthusiasm. It's about logos, the application of reason to action. We're going to explore the specific mental frameworks designed to turn your mind into a fortress of consistency, where discipline isn't a chore but an identity. It's time to stop chasing the high of motivation and start building the power of command. The most common self-insult in the modern world is, "I'm just lazy." We wear it like a badge of shame, assuming that we lack some fundamental ingredient that productive people were born with. But Stoicism offers a more nuanced diagnosis. The challenge isn't a lack of character, it's that you are currently a victim of an internal civil war. Within you, there are two distinct governing bodies. One is the prohairesis, your rational volitional faculty. This is the part of you that sets goals, understands the value of health, and wants to build a legacy. The other is the animal instinct, often called the lizard brain. This part of your psyche is millions of years old and has one primary directive: survival through energy conservation. To the lizard brain, a difficult task is a threat and comfort is safety. When you sit down to work and suddenly find yourself checking your phone or cleaning your desk, you aren't relaxing. You're engaged in a frantic tactical retreat. This is the procrastination loop in action. It begins with the trigger. You face a task that requires cognitive or physical effort. Your brain perceives this effort as a cost. Next comes the resistance. Your limbic system sounds an alarm. It creates a feeling of unease, boredom, or even physical anxiety. Then, the diversion. To soothe this discomfort, you reach for a hit of cheap dopamine, social media, a snack, or a mindless video. Finally, the guilt. The dopamine wears off, the task is still there, and now you have the added weight of self-loathing. This loop is addictive because it provides immediate relief from the pain of discipline. The more you cycle through it, the more you train your brain that the only way to feel safe is to avoid your own potential. You aren't being lazy. You are being hijacked by an evolutionary drive that no longer serves you in a world of abundance and screens. The most devastating consequence of this internal war isn't just a missed deadline or a messy house. It is the creation of the gap. Imagine two versions of yourself standing in a room. The first is who you are today, distracted, tired, and reactive. The second is your ataraxia, your ideal self, the version of you that acted on every good intention, followed every workout plan, and spoke with clarity and purpose. The distance between these two people is the gap. This is the most dangerous territory in a human life because it is where regret takes root. When we are young, the gap feels small and fixable. We tell ourselves, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm just in a phase." But as the years pass, the gap widens. Every time you choose the path of least resistance, you take a step away from your ideal self and a step toward a life defined by what if. We live in an era of unprecedented comfort, yet we are more anxious and less disciplined than our ancestors. Why? Because comfort is a slow-acting poison for the human spirit. The Stoics observed that when a man has everything he wants, he becomes a slave to his needs. If you cannot withstand a moment of boredom without reaching for your phone, you are not free. If you cannot endure a bit of hunger or cold without complaining, you are fragile. This fragility is the fuel for the internal civil war. Your impulses have become your masters because you have forgotten how to say no to yourself. You have been conditioned to believe that discomfort is an error in the system, rather than a necessary requirement for growth. Perhaps the most silent part of this problem is the erosion of self-trust. Every time you set an alarm and hit snooze, you're making a promise to yourself and then immediately breaking it. Think about how you would view a friend who lied to you every single day. You would stop listening to them. You would lose respect for them. Eventually, you would cut them out of your life. This is exactly what happens internally. When the internal civil war is constantly won by your impulses, your rational mind stops believing in your own goals. You start a new project, but a voice in the back of your head whispers, "Why bother? You know you won't finish this." This loss of self-integrity is the ultimate problem. You have become a stranger to your own will. You're living in a state of acrasia, acting against your own better judgment. You know the way out, you see the light, but your legs refuse to move because they are shackled by the thousands of small concessions you've made to comfort over the years. This civil war cannot be won by trying harder. You cannot beat a biological drive with sheer willpower alone. Willpower is a limited resource that runs out by 4 p.m. To win, you need a change in strategy. You need to stop viewing discipline as a struggle against your bad self and start viewing it as a restoration of your natural order. You need to reclaim the throne of your own mind. The Stoics didn't view discipline as a punishment. They viewed it as the ultimate act of self-love. In the next section, we will move from the diagnosis of the problem to the architectural plans of the solution. We will explore how to dismantle the procrastination loop, close the gap, and finally end the civil war by establishing a new unstoppable inner hierarchy. Epictetus, a man born into slavery who eventually became one of the most influential teachers in Rome, began his handbook with a revolutionary premise: some things are in our control and others not. The primary reason we lose our discipline is energy leakage. We spend our mental currency worrying about the economy, obsessing over how many likes our post got, or complaining about a difficult boss. To a Stoic, this is the height of insanity. When you invest emotion into things you cannot control, you're handing the remote control of your life to a stranger. How to apply it to discipline? Discipline often fails because we focus on the outcome, losing 20 pounds, getting a promotion, winning a race, rather than the process. The outcome is never 100% in your control. You can do everything right and still lose. When you focus on the outcome and things go sideways, you feel defeated and quit. The Stoic strategy is to internalize your goals. Don't set a goal to win the race. Set a goal to train with 100% intensity today. You cannot control the judges or your competitors, but you have absolute sovereignty over your own effort. When you filter your world through the dichotomy of control, your anxiety vanishes because your success is no longer tied to the world. It is tied to your will. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, used to set aside a certain number of days each month to live in poverty. He would wear coarse clothes, eat meagre rations, and sleep on the floor, asking himself the entire time, "Is this what I feared?" In the modern world, we are surrounded by comfort creep. We have climate-controlled rooms, instant food delivery, and infinite entertainment. This constant comfort makes us fragile. When the slightest bit of resistance appears, like a difficult email or a rainy day, we crumble because our discipline muscle has atrophied. The strategy of pre-mortem. Discomfort. Voluntary hardship is the practice of seeking out small, controlled doses of suffering to build an immunity to laziness. It is the vaccine for the soul. Cold showers. You aren't just getting clean, you're practicing the act of doing something you don't want to do. You're teaching your brain that hard does not mean dangerous. Fasting. You prove to yourself that you're not a slave to your hunger or your immediate desires. Waking up at the first alarm. This is the first battle of the day. By refusing the snooze button, you're telling your body that the mind is the master, not the flesh. By choosing discomfort on your own terms, you ensure that when life forces discomfort upon you, you are already calloused. You become the person who can work in a loud room, stay calm in a crisis, and stay disciplined when the spark of motivation is long gone. Most productivity gurus tell you to visualize success. They want you to imagine the house, the car, and the trophy. The Stoics did the exact opposite. They practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This sounds like pessimism, but it is actually the ultimate tool for gratitude and urgency. We are often undisciplined because we suffer from the illusion of infinite time. We think we have forever to write that book or start that business. The shift from chore to privilege. Take a moment to imagine that today is the last day you have your health. Imagine that the very hands you used to type or the legs you used to run are no longer functional. Suddenly, the work you were complaining about doesn't look like a chore anymore. It looks like a miracle. How to use it for unstoppable discipline. 1. Anticipate obstacles. Before you start your day, visualize everything that could go wrong. The traffic will be bad, the internet will go down, people will be rude. By expecting these things, you rob them of their power to disrupt your discipline. You aren't surprised into quitting, you're prepared to endure. 2. The memento mori factor. Remember that you are mortal. This isn't meant to be depressing, it's meant to be a fire under your feet. When you realize that your time is a non-renewable resource, wasting an afternoon on mindless scrolling feels like a tragedy. Negative visualization turns your discipline into a form of worship. You don't work because you have to. You work because you're still here, still capable, and still have the chance to contribute. These 3 pillars form a closed loop. The dichotomy of control tells you where to put your energy. Voluntary hardship ensures your vessel is strong enough to carry that energy. Negative visualization provides the urgency to act right now. When these 3 tactics are combined, the internal civil war ends. You stop negotiating with your impulses because you've already practiced being uncomfortable. You've already accepted that the outcome is secondary to the effort, and you've realized that your time is too precious to waste on the path of least resistance. Imagine the most powerful man in the known world. He is Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. He has absolute authority, unimaginable wealth, and servants who would cater to his every whim. Yet, nearly 2,000 years ago, he sat on the edge of his bed in the cold grey light of dawn, having the exact same argument with himself that you had this morning. He wrote in his private journal, Meditations. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work. As a human being, I'm going to do what I was born for. Or was I created to wrap myself in blankets and keep warm? This is the climax of the Stoic path. It is the realization that even an emperor is not exempt from the internal civil war. The turning point in your life doesn't happen when you sign a contract, graduate from college, or get married. It happens in the quiet, invisible moment between the alarm going off and your feet hitting the floor. Most of us fail at discipline because we view it as a mountain we have to climb. We look at the next year, the next 1,000 workouts, or the next 100 chapters of a book, and we become paralyzed by the sheer scale of the commitment. This is a cognitive error. By looking at the forever, you lose the now. The Stoic breakthrough is the understanding of the chief task. In any given moment, you only ever have one task: to act with virtue and reason right now. Discipline is not a lifelong sentence. It is not a heavy chain you must drag behind you for decades. Discipline is a single choice made in a 3-second window. When you realize that you don't need to be disciplined for a year, that you only need to be disciplined for the next 10 minutes, the burden vanishes. Stoicism teaches us that the past is dead, it is indifferent, outside our control, and the future is unborn. It is a projection of the mind. The only thing that truly exists, the only place where you have any power, is the present moment. Think of your life as a series of individual frames in a movie. You cannot change the frames that have already played, and you cannot jump ahead to the ending. You can only influence the frame you are currently in. The 10-minute rule: when the lizard brain screams for comfort, don't tell it never. That feels too painful. Tell it, not for the next 10 minutes. You can endure anything for 10 minutes. The micro-victory. When you win that 10-minute block, you aren't just finishing a task. You are casting a vote for the person you want to become. You are building evidence of capability. The climax of the Stoic strategy is the total collapse of time. When you stop worrying about the finish line and start obsessing over the quality of the current step, you become unstoppable. Why? Because the now is always manageable. You can't lose 50 pounds now, but you can choose water over soda now. You can't write a novel now, but you can write one honest sentence now. You can't be a master of your craft now, but you can focus on this one repetition with 100% intensity now. If you win the now, the forever takes care of itself. A disciplined life is simply a long string of disciplined nows tied together. This is where the shift happens. You move from being a reactor to a commander. Most people are reactive. They react to the weather, their emails, their hunger, and their moods. But the Stoic commander understands that between the stimulus, the alarm clock, the craving, the insult, and the response, getting up, eating, staying calm, there is a space. In that space lies your freedom. The chief task is to stand guard at the door of that space. When the impulse to quit arrives, you don't suppress it. You acknowledge it, and then you choose a different response. You realize that your feelings are just suggestions from your biology, not commands from your soul. In this climax, we find the cure for the gap we discussed earlier. Regret lives in the distance between your potential and your reality. By focusing entirely on the chief task of the present moment, you close that gap instantly. When you are acting with 100% intention in the present, your ideal self and your actual self become the same person. For that 1 minute, that 1 hour, or that one task, the gap is gone. You are living as the person you are meant to be. This is the secret that the great Stoics knew. Discipline is the highest form of self-respect. It is the refusal to let your lower impulses dictate the story of your life. You're standing on the edge of your own bed, figuratively or literally. To your left is the path of comfort, the path of the blankets, the snooze button, and the slow, agonizing build-up of regret. To your right is the Stoic path, the path of the chief task, the cold morning air, and the immediate closing of the gap. The unstoppable strategy isn't a complex ritual. It is the brutal simplicity of deciding that the next 10 minutes belong to your higher self. Stop looking at the mountain. Look at your feet. Take the step. Win the now. There is a common misconception that discipline is a form of self-imprisonment, that by following a strict code you are somehow killing your spontaneity or turning into a cold, unfeeling robot. But the Stoics saw it through a much sharper lens. They understood that undisciplined freedom is actually the most subtle form of slavery. If you cannot say no to your cravings, no to your anger, or no to the siren song of your smartphone, you are not free. You're a puppet being pulled by the invisible strings of your biology and the algorithms of big tech. You're a slave to whatever whim or impulse happens to cross your mind at 2 p.m. True freedom, the kind that Marcus Aurelius practiced and Epictetus taught, is the ability to stay on your chosen path regardless of the emotional weather. It is the power of self-mastery. When you can command yourself to act, to endure, and to focus despite being tired, bored, or afraid, you become the only truly free person in the room. You're no longer at the mercy of external circumstances. Whether the world is in chaos or the sun is shining, your internal compass remains fixed. Discipline is the wall that protects your peace of mind. By restraining your lower impulses, you liberate your higher self. You stop being a victim of your moods and start being the architect of your character. In the end, the restraint of Stoicism isn't about holding yourself back. It's about giving yourself the power to finally move forward. Don't just watch this and feel inspired. Inspiration without action is just another form of entertainment. If you walk away now without changing a single habit, you've let the lizard brain win again. Your task. Identify one thing you've been putting off. Apply the dichotomy of control. Release your anxiety over the outcome and commit to just 5 minutes of work right now. Prove to yourself that you are the one in command. If you're ready to close the gap and reclaim your freedom, hit the subscribe button. Comment "I am the commander" below to seal your commitment. The war ends today. Get to work.